Jake here for American Muscle, and today I've got the C&L Sport Catback exhaust with polished tips fitting 2015 and newer EcoBoost Mustangs without the active exhaust. From the factory, EcoBoost S550s don't really sound like too much, but it's also very easy to uncork a 4-cylinder engine like that to the point where it's too loud and it doesn't sound good at all. This system from C&L bridges that gap very nicely, giving you a really cool, grumbly sound without going so far as to blow out your eardrums. It also offers a nice look and solid construction at a super affordable price. The exhaust note of the EcoBoost Mustang has been a topic of much debate since the car's introduction, and it's plagued by the same problem that lots of turbocharged 4-cylinder engines have, and that's the lack of noise. Between that turbocharger, the emission systems, and the mufflers and resonators in the exhaust itself, turbo 4s tend to just not make much noise, and that simply isn't going to do for a Mustang. As you heard in the clips at the beginning of the video, this one makes a big difference in volume. On our loudness meter, we're going to give it a 4 out of 5. It's pretty loud, but it doesn't just make noise. Now, of course, whether or not you like the sound of an exhaust is entirely subjective, but I think this one happens to sound pretty good. You get a nice little bark on cold starts, and it settles into a mellow rumble at idle once the car's warmed up. And of course, when you romp on it, you get that pretty aggressive exhaust note. Not quite enough to make your neighbors entirely irate, but it is going to get you noticed. Inside of the cabin, as with any exhaust upgrade, there is a noticeable increase in volume. Now, Mustangs are reasonably quiet on the interior, but let's not forget that this is still a performance car at heart, so a little more volume in the cabin is not necessarily a bad thing. As you heard in those clips, it's not too obtrusive like some systems can be, because you do still have some mufflers. You're going to be able to hold a conversation, listen to music, or take a long road trip without your passengers complaining too much. And since this is a full catback system, it is going to replace your stock mufflers and resonator, and instead it will include these two bullet style mufflers. Now, these are nearly straight through, but as you can see, they do have some baffling in them, and they are pretty big. So they're going to help keep the sound under control and that volume in check. One other note on this is that with this mid pipe that you have here, you are going to be able to mount this up. It will keep your factory catalytic converters. However, if you are running an aftermarket downpipe, you're going to want to make sure that you check the diameter of it. If it's a larger diameter downpipe, which most aftermarket choices are, this is going to require you to cut and do a little adaptation to it. However, again, if you're running a stock downpipe with stock cats, this is going to bolt right up without an issue. Now, the whole system is made from 3-inch mandrel bent 409 grade stainless steel, so it's going to provide improved exhaust flow and good resistance to rust and corrosion. It's finished off with these 4.5-inch polished tips that add a nice little bit of visual flair to the rear fascia of the car. Now, the tips are constructed from dual wall T304 grade stainless steel, so they're going to be able to withstand the elements, and they're also a clamp-on design as well, so you can adjust the fitment if you want them to stick out a little bit more. As far as pricing goes here, this one is going to run you about $450, making it the least expensive option available for these cars. Now, of course, for that price, you're not going to be getting the full T304 stainless material, but this is still well constructed, and I think it makes a pretty good noise. So if you want the bare bones good stuff, the sound and the construction for a really good price without having to pay that name brand premium, this is going to be an excellent choice for you. Installation here will come in at a 2 out of 3 on the difficulty meter, and you should plan on it taking you about 2 hours to complete. Now, this is a totally bolt-on system. There's no cutting at all required, again, unless you're using an aftermarket mid-pipe. So you can always revert this back to stock should you need to. Your install is only going to require a few tools outside of your jack and jack stands. It will, of course, utilize all of your factory exhaust mounting points, and you also get brand new clamps in the kit to make sure everything fits together nice and snug. And with that, let's head over to the install bay and we'll show you what's involved.
The tools you'll need for this project are an impact gun, a ratchet, a deep 13mm socket with a short extension, a 15mm socket, possibly a short 13mm socket, and exhaust hanger removal tool. Hi everyone. Today we're installing an exhaust on our EcoBoost Mustang, but first, let's watch a short video on how to uninstall the stock exhaust.
Now your obvious first step here, guys, is to lift and support your car, whether it be on jack and jack stands, or in this case, a lift. Now with the car up in the air, we're gonna start by removing the two 13mm bolts, securing these brackets back here towards the rear of the car. Now we can move up to our clamp here that secures our factory cap back to our downpipe and loosen these two 15mm nuts here. We don't have to remove them all the way. We just want to make sure we can loosen those enough to loosen this clamp up. So now with our forwardmost clamp loosened up, we're going to grab a buddy here, and what we're gonna do is get the exhaust off of the brackets here that secure it to the rear subframe, drop the front of the catback itself, and then at that point we can slide the rear of the factory catback out of these hangers.
Now we're ready to install our Y pipe. And you want to make sure when you install this that the metal support plate here at the end is facing down towards the ground. So what we're going to do is we're just going to slide the other end into the original clamp at the front, and we're going to snug it down. We're not going to tighten it all the way because we're going to need it for adjustment later. And once you've got it into the clamp, we're going to go ahead and snug it down with our 15mm socket. Now if you're doing this on a lift such as we are, it's a good idea to use a pole jack and put it underneath the support plate to hold it up while we install the rest of the pipes. If you're doing this on the ground, you can use a floor jack to support the pipe. Now we will need to reuse these two middle hangers here from the stock exhaust for our new system. So go ahead and take these off, and we're going to be using a pair of hanger removal tools to go ahead and pull this off. Now if it's difficult for you to get it off, you may want to consider using some sort of a spray lubricant to help ease it off of their hanger. Now we're going to go ahead and start on our driver's side, and we're going to install our under the axle pipe first. So we're going to go ahead and put our hanger on the exhaust pipe. We want to make sure that this tab and this hook at the top is facing towards the front of the vehicle. So we'll go ahead and slide that on, and then we'll put one of our clamps over the end of the pipe, and then we'll go ahead and slide it into place. Now you want to make sure that it's seated all the way in. And then we'll go ahead and hang our hanger back on the subframe going across the back of the car. All right, once we've got our hanger and our clamp in place, we'll go ahead and slide it onto the Y pipe, make sure it seats all the way in, and then we'll hang on the subframe cross member at the top. All right, now we're going to install our bolt for our hanger just to hold it in place, make sure it doesn't fall down. And then we'll snug up our clamp with our 15mm socket. And now we'll snug up our clamp with our 15mm socket. And when you snug this up, you want the clamp to be at the very end of the pipe for the best clamping ability. All right, now we're going to slide our clamp over our muffler pipe, and then we'll slide our hanger into the rear isolator at the back of the vehicle. Now, once you've got it into the rear isolator, we can go ahead and connect our two pipes. Make sure that they seat, and then we'll go ahead and snug up this clamp as well with our 15mm socket. Now we'll slide a clamp over our exhaust tip, slide that into place, and we'll snug that up with our 15mm socket as well. And now you can repeat that whole process for the other side. Now that we've got our system installed and snugged up, what we can do is double check our alignment, make sure everything is straight and level, make sure there's no interference with any of the subframe or the body or any hoses or lines. And once you've got all that done, now we can go ahead, starting from the front, and we'll tighten up all of our clamps using our 15mm socket. So now we'll tighten up the 2 bolts on our hangers right behind the differential using our 13mm socket. And that wraps up our review and install of the C&L Sport Catback Exhaust with polished tips for your 15 to 22 Mustang EcoBoost Fastback without active exhaust. Thanks for watching, and remember, for all things Mustang, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.